Well, a very good afternoon to you. Welcome to the program. It's Good Afternoon, Ghana, and we continue to analyze the issues that comes up almost on a daily basis. It's still with the NDC, and there are developments that are happening with the party after its primaries ended. The first one has to do with the party declaring Edem Agbana as the winner of the Ketu North primaries that was organized. Remember that there was a confusion over who was really the winner, and the results was put on hold until the party went through the issues and declared Edem Agbana the winner. The producers are working on us to get Edem Agbana to speak to later this afternoon. Also, another development from the courts also pertaining to the NDC has to do with Gyakye Quayson's holding himself as a member of parliament. But the court's unanimous decision has declared his election as unconstitutional due to the processes he was engaged in before him being elected. We'll get that matter also, analyzed later on the program. That's our agenda this afternoon on Good Afternoon, Ghana. We'll take a break. We'll be back shortly.
The fact that the High Court held that he was not qualified did not necessarily mean that the Supreme Court was going to adopt the same position. You should also bear in mind that the decision of the High Court, the judgment of the High Court, is being contested in the Court of Appeal. Indeed, they filed an appeal. It was in the course of the appeal processes that we thought it wise to invoke the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court to have this matter finally determined. But the Supreme Court is the highest court in the land, and it is the court which determines all constitutional matters. We wanted a strict and proper interpretation and true as that of Article 94(2)(a), and that is what has been done this month. I don't think I want to answer to that. You can go and ask Mr. Quayson's lawyer. I'm not his lawyer. As to whether he wants to contest or not, is the business of himself and the NDC, the party to which he belongs.
Not contest qualified.
I am not in a position to answer that. He can advise himself, as he did the first time.
The High Court had told the Electoral Commission to conduct elections in Ase North. The party has always been ready that any time soon the EC comes out, we are ready to go. But what we have at hand now is winning the Kumail by-elections. We are working towards it. But for today's decision, the party will go back and sit down, look at the issues, and come out the way forward.
The fact that the High Court held that he was not qualified did not necessarily mean that the Supreme Court was going to adopt the same position. You should also bear in mind that the decision of the High Court, the judgment of the High Court, is being contested in the Court of Appeal. Indeed, they filed an appeal. It was in the course of the appeal processes that we thought it wise to invoke the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court to have this matter finally determined. But the Supreme Court is the highest court in the land, and it is the court which determines all constitutional matters. We wanted a strict and proper interpretation and true as that of Article 94(2)(a), and that is what has been done this month. I don't think I want to answer to that. You can go and ask Mr. Quayson's lawyer. I'm not his lawyer. As to whether he wants to contest or not, is the business of himself and the NDC, the party to which he belongs.
Not contest qualified.
I am not in a position to answer that. He can advise himself, as he did the first time.
The High Court had told the Electoral Commission to conduct elections in Ase North. The party has always been ready that any time soon the EC comes out, we are ready to go. But what we have at hand now is winning the Kumail by-elections. We are working towards it. But for today's decision, the party will go back and sit down, look at the issues, and come out the way forward.
All right, you're welcome back to Good Afternoon, Ghana. Now, let's analyze the issues of the day. But before that, let me introduce the one who is with me in the studio already. I have Ni Amate, I have lawyer Ni Ama Adi. Ni Amate will join us pretty shortly. He's a lead fellow for Center for Social Justice, lead fellow Center for Social Justice Ni Ama Adi. Lawyer, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Good afternoon to you. Okay, so Ni Amate will join us, who is a governance expert later on. But let me just quickly read the outcome of the court, or the story of the court's ruling that came out this afternoon. The Supreme Court has declared as unconstitutional the election of James Gyakye Quayson as a member of Parliament for Assin North in the Central Region. Now, in the unanimous decision Wednesday morning, May 17, 2023, the 7-member panel of the Supreme Court ordered Parliament to expunge the name of Mr. Quayson as MP and from the court's list. So it was the considered view of the court that the election of Mr. Quayson breached Article 94, Clause 2 of the 1992 Constitution because at the time he filed to contest the elections, he was not qualified to be elected as legislator since he had not renounced his dual citizenship. And the court therefore declared Mr. Quayson filing to contest the EC's decision to allow him to contest, as well as the swearing him as an MP, all unconstitutional, null and void. So just in case you want to know, the members of the committee, the 7-member committee presided over by Justice Jones Doche, with Justice Nene Amegachi, Mariama Owusu Getru Tokono are the just nominated Chief Justice, and Professor Henrietta Mensah Bonsu, Emmanuel Yoni Kolendi, and Barbara Aka Ayensu. These were the members of the court. Lawyer, welcome once again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so firstly, I thought this case probably had delayed, maybe had taken too long for this ruling, first of all.
Yes, rightly so. It's taking too long. You would expect that would have been a speedy decision.
Ruling or
but
trial,
yes,
or
a speedy decision. But you know, like we always say, fair trial. So you have to hear everybody fairly, and then give the parties enough time to be able to go through the process. But in as much as we want to do that, sometimes we also say that some cases tend to take too long than expected. And I do not think that Mr. Quayson will be excessively surprised, because where they've made an intention long ago that if the decision comes, they are prepared to go for a rerun, which is a by-election, which he will stand again. I think that you would say that mentally is some way positioned or prepared to go again. But I'm sure when we get to the details, we shall look at the stories.
I was actually giving the analysis because, or I saw it that way, that I had delayed, because this is a case with documents. It's a case of election. And it's a case of a people that must be catered for no matter what, you know. So if there are documents that easily are accessible, the United States, which country was he holding the dual citizenship?
I think the US.
So the United States is there, you can check. Our offices are there, you can check. Is that easy? Or is it difficult, or sometimes the court is unable to access these documents?
I mean, you know how sometimes the court takes its time and they will tell you they have a lot of other things to do. And you know, the cases were running parallel, because they were in High Court, they were in Appeals Court, and they were in the Supreme Court together. So if you have it that way, sometimes it tends to delay processes a bit. But I have read some transcripts or some of the stories being told by Mr. Quayson himself when this whole process starts. And he said that upon filing his nomination to contest for the seat, he also filed for the renunciation of its foreign citizenship, okay, the dual citizenship thing. And you know that once you file that process, it gets out of your hand to an administrative process which you have no control over. And so you would say that if he has evinced that intention of renouncing is foreign citizenship, then that should be a justification to say that he has done what he's supposed to do on his part. Okay, but what the court seemed to tell us, if you refer to our constitution in Article 94(1)(a) and then 94(2)(a), which, if you permit me, I'll read, says that subject to the provision of this article, a person shall not be qualified to be a member of parliament unless A, he is a citizen of Ghana, has attained the age of 21 years and is a registered voter. So the first part of it is a citizen of Ghana. And when you go to 94(2)(a), a person shall not be qualified to be a member of parliament if A, owes allegiance to a country other than Ghana. And that is what they've gone to court. Okay, what the MPP or the Electoral Commission or whoever, someone them gone to court to seek a strict interpretation to 94(2)(a), that he owes allegiance to a country other than Ghana. Okay, so then my understanding is that he has taken that step. He has evinced that intention.
But when exactly did he?
No, when he filed, okay, when he filed, okay, when he filed, because then the Electoral Commission has said that he was not. But you see, if you analyze the whole issue, you would say that some due diligence was not done on the part of the Electoral Commission. So that is the fundamental error that they commit. To say that before they give an applicant...
But why the Electoral Commission? Why not the party?
Yeah, that is it. But you can blame it on the party too equally. But the Electoral Commission is the one who has the ultimate power to clear you to contest for the election. So you would say that at the point of clearance, they should have been sure. First, they will tell you that be sure that everything that you've provided us is a true reflection of what you are. Okay, but that is one part of it. And then you say that they also have a responsibility because they give you a clearance, and the clearance must be given when they are sure, when they've done their checks to know that this applicant qualifies to contest the election or not. Okay, but where you skip it and you allow the person to contest the election, and then you come back to say that the person lied to you, that is where I feel that some good due diligence was not done. Because if they've done it, then they would have known. Be that as it may, Mr. Quayson has said that he has filed for the renunciation of his foreign citizenship. Okay? And I'm making the point that these are administrative processes. If he filed for the renunciation and the evidence is there to show that he has filed for the renunciation of that citizenship, at least that should show a good intent. Because then it shifts from him to the administrative process. Are we saying that if it's going to take the US 10 years or 20 years to come back with their response, it cannot go ahead when he has said so? And you see, the other point that we must also note is that if he had waited for the election before he did that, then you would say that he acted in bad faith. Because then you would say, oh, he wanted to see the outcome of the election. If he wins, then he renounces it. But if he loses, then he can choose to go back to his foreign citizenship. But that was not the case. Okay? So I would have preferred if they've gone, the court, because the court has all the powers to apply common sense, rather than the strict rules of the law, which we've read in 94(2)(a), especially when the person has evinced that intention and the documentary evidence is there to show that this is what he has done.
What is, because the law is clear on renunciation. It did not talk about the intention to renounce.
Yes, it talks about renunciation, which is what we've read in 94(2)(a). Yeah. That a person shall not be qualified to be a member of parliament if he owes allegiance to a country other than Ghana.
Yeah. Okay? So that will practically mean that once the renunciation processes is not being completed, you're still holding on to allegiance, even though you've shown interest or intention.
Yes, but once you have filed the process, that you want to renounce it, I mean, you cannot come back to say that I'm not renouncing it anymore, because you've gone through all the process. And he has shown that. He has given that to them as an evidence, showing date and everything of when he renounced his citizenship. And I am saying that I would have a challenge with him if he had done that after the election. But he did it in the process. But it came late. And now they are taking a retrospective effect of what has happened to say that at the time of registering, you should have renounced it. Okay? But he did it. He did it.
Let me engage ni Amate or Amate. Ni Amate, if you can hear me, you're welcome once again. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Right. Apologies. I earlier on spoke with you on the news, but we're analyzing the renunciation and what the law really says about what you have to do if you show interest in the office. So, lawyer actually thinks that the court, can tamper justice with mercy and consider at least the intention that he has shown. To be honest, the lead for legal team for the NDC, lawyer Malabar, has spoken with me, and he says that they are working towards, what's it called? What do you call that? An appeal. Yeah,
but this is the Supreme Court ruling. So.
Yes. So they cannot go for an appeal?
Yeah, the Supreme Court is the final, yes, that's the thing. So. I mean, they appeal the ruling of the High Court. There was a previous High Court ruling which they appealed. Yes, so I think they consolidated everything, and now we've had the Supreme Court ruling. Yes.
Okay, I'll come back to you, but let me go to Niamate Amate. So, what do you make of also the action that the NDC wants to take?
In connection with the appeal, because after the Supreme Court, which is the apex court, I don't think any appeal could ever go on. But be that as it may, there are a few things that we need to consider. I was once listening to Alote Jacobs on one of the radio stations, and he stated that when they were vetting the candidates, he raised the issue of this dual citizenship with a gentleman. But unfortunately, his voice couldn't go far, so they carried it through. They made him pass the vetting. And this is where we've all got into with this case. You see,
wow.
There are laws. And once the law says, if you carry dual citizenship, you cannot participate in some political, activities in your country. I think it stays that way. I've been listening to the conversation, and I listened to my friend Amma talking about, he putting in the application, and therefore it's in the hands of some foreign administrators, and they could. I listened to that, but you see, once you've made up your mind that this is what you want to do, you should have taken an earlier step to take care of the denunciation before coming to be a part of our activities. I don't like this whole thing of dual citizenship and the fact that you cannot ascend to a certain position in politics. I don't think so, because it then takes away everything that we have in people who could help us to build our country. Why doesn't it matter in other jurisdictions? How come you can go on to have dual citizenship and yet continue to serve one country or the other in certain jurisdictions? And so for me, it's not a good thing. And like I raised in the earlier interview, it is not a good thing for us to waste our monies to go invite people to come and help build Ghana, and yet we have these technicalities debarring them from doing exactly what we've asked them to do. You don't take steps to negate things that you had earlier assented to. And that is exactly what we're doing.
So for you, you have a position on the dual citizenship situation type of thing, which you think is rather unfair for persons who've lived outside and with so much experience and can help this country. However, when there's a technical rule, you cannot jump over it.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it worrying that we will want them to come and help, and yet won't take steps to streamline these technicalities?
Right.
It is worrying that, look, and you asked me whether it was fair or unfair to the gentleman. It's so unfair to him, having spent so much money, brought down his wealth of knowledge, his material things that will help him work effectively in Ghana, having taken the steps to campaign all this while, having gone through the vetting process. He had won the election, and then you knock him out on technical grounds.
But why should that be blamed on the court? What was the party doing? Like you said, someone in the party prompted the party that this and this and this is what we have to pay attention to, but the party didn't listen. So if he has actually gone through challenges, spent resources and all, it's gotten to this point, is the party that must be held responsible for, causing him this delay, waste, and time.
Yeah, I don't fault the court. I am crying inside of me that in many instances we fail to do what we have to do. Okay, like I've just explained. I mean, all these could have been forestalled if we had taken the necessary steps to help out. And I'm sure, whilst it was one of the reasons we had a fight in Parliament that midnight, and that has also sent Ghana's reputation, in as far as our parliamentary activities are concerned, to the dustbin. And it's worrying. It's so worrying. Many people would be goading him on that, look, nobody can touch you. Go ahead and do this. Go ahead. Even now that the court has pronounced its final verdict, you read on the net that Mahama said the justice system had not done justice to the gentleman. And you see, we keep bastardizing the same institutions that we've set up to serve us. And like somebody said, I mean, why would we want to invite them over then? And when we're inviting them over, did we give them the necessary advice for them to take before? I mean, it is now left for us to find out whether he actually took the step to denounce his citizenship in Canada before coming, and how early did he do that? Because that can also help out. But you see, for me, all these things are just unfair technicalities that we're putting in people's ways because of politics. Can you imagine? I read somewhere that Nanado and Chachuchikata were outside of the jurisdiction of Ghana, somewhere in Paris, to win a case. A case when they teamed up to win that case outside. And yet, because of politics, these two persons have been drawn so apart. You know what we can achieve as Ghanaians if we, and Nana had very good intentions of inviting them down. So why knock them off with these technicalities? Why can't we streamline these things? Look, Ghana needs so much help. We need help.
But Ghana needs help, and Ghana needs commitment. And I'm saying total 100% commitment too.
Yeah, but you are not telling me that the countries or the jurisdictions that are allowing people with dual citizenship to come and serve them don't need their commitment and total loyalty. What I'm saying is, let's streamline these things. What do we want as a people? Can we have them having their dual citizenship and still serve us in certain capacities? Can we do that? Why come and call me and then I come to serve? And I'm telling you, if not for politics, this gentleman could be doing wonderful things to Ghana.
Right.
But because they are drawn apart and they have daggers showing all around them in Parliament and in other political areas, you find these things going on. And let me depart a bit from this. Look at the way Dufour was treated. He's been with them all this while, just because he showed his head to challenge Mahama, who had unfairly been tagged presumptive president. I mean, you don't do these things when there's going to be a competition. Presumptive. And so all other persons who are competing with him would then be what? And so you find people playing all manner of tactics just to get you out of the way, so they have their person there. Look, I watched Parliament that midnight when they were having the fisticuffs. And I was asking myself, is this the Parliament that we all wished for? Just because of politics. And we are all Ghanaians. Oh my God. This is so bad.
So I was asking lawyer earlier on that I consider this ruling as having been or having delayed quite a while, because we're working with Parliament, we're taking care of a people, someone's resources has been committed. With the way you're going with the analysis, I want to believe that sometimes someone can point to the fact that there's a bit of politics even in the handling of this issue, because I expected that once he was identified as someone who could not hold the parliamentary position or the office, then processes could have started immediately, and then ruling, also as soon as possible, and then he can. But we have sat on this case until 2023, and now this ruling is coming up. Haven't we delayed so much or so long?
Our court system, in spite of the fast track that we introduced, is still working out so tortoisely, slowly. And it's amazing. But you are talking about...
Even when there's a means to work as fast as a hare and not a tortoise.
Yeah, I was going to refer you to Rebecca Adote, who came into Parliament. Everything proved that she was there wrongly, and the court had decided that she did not win the election. She stayed in there fully, collected her monies, went around as a parliamentarian till Parliament came to an end before her name was struck out.
Right.
And that is not fair. This one could have been dealt with earlier, but the slow processes at the courts. But again, if you go down back to what I said earlier, Alote Jacobs mentioned it at a vetting. How come they never nipped it there? You see, because somehow somebody was goading him on, somehow somebody's voice was heavier. So, Charlie, let him go. I'm sure this, you see, and the role money plays in our body politic is also another thing that should be considered. I'm sure if the guy was like me, I'm sure he wouldn't have gone through. But he had some money to spray. And so people were pushing for him, although we knew that this is it. Now, coming to the court system.
You're saying that he used money to influence the party officials to allow him go through?
Who doesn't? Who doesn't?
That would be an unfair comment on him.
No, I'm not
because
saying
you and I were not there.
No, hold on a second. I'm not saying he dished out cash, but I'm saying that this is the way we go about our body politics, and that's why I'm condemning that. I'm not saying he dished out. I'm saying that something might have worked out, and for which reason somebody else would have kicked against what Alote Jacobs said at a vetting.
Yeah, it also could be shared negligence on the part of the party and not necessarily anybody being influenced.
So, one, the party could be blamed. Two, his own constituency people. Three, his party top executives. And there are lawyers in there. Amaliba is there, Justice Annan is there, and all, Baba Jamal. I mean, they could have advised him. So what happened to the legal unit of the NDC? And it doesn't speak well of us as a people, that these are things that we could have dealt with. As we speak today, they are still divided as to whether if you have dual citizenship, you can still serve in Ghana or not. I listened to the NDC argument where they were pinpointing certain things that you could do even if you have dual citizenship and it doesn't matter and stuff. You have the MPP guy saying that, well, this is it. But be that as it may, the court has spoken in spite of the slow nature of it. And that is where people also keep saying that justice delayed is justice denied. I mean, see how long this thing has taken.
Yeah, and if you consider the debate and the arguments in Parliament where parliamentarians are now fighting over numbers, you would say, or you would think that, or you would suspect that there's an attempt to keep the minorities' numbers at where it can be controlled because we now have a hung parliament. So
the minority itself should not be pitied. They took a case to court saying that the NPP passed a law on e-levy or so without the required numbers. So they took it to court. What has happened to that case? The minority in parliament should not be sympathized with. They are doing all manner of things and covering them up. Look, parliament in this particular era has done so many bad things, so many funny things, and I hope by listening to this, they won't think of, they will rather think of, changing their ways. Because
or inviting you to the privileges committee.
I was dodging that one. I hope they won't do that because, see, too many things have gone wrong with the car loans, knowing that they should be charged on the consolidated account, and yet they were taking the car loans. They did so many things, and they took blades to the parliament because they knew there was going to be a fight, and somebody's eyelash or just a few inches below the eyes had a cut. I mean, what kind of thing is that? And what do they go back to tell their children when they see them on telly behaving that way? Too many presidential faux pas had been committed, and I think they need to put right these things. Look at this Hacho woman, Safo or whatever.
Adra Safo.
Yes, being away and yet being paid with the taxpayers' money. And look at what happened with the e-levy. Somebody who was suffering from stroke had to be brought in an ambulance, was not taken onto the floor of parliament as the law requires, and yet his vote was counted. Some of these things should be, and so when you ignore all of these things and then you come and look at somebody who has sacrificed his life just to come in here and come and play a role, and the court is right in interpreting the law the way it is, but I'm saying that he could have been saved all these wahales.
Yeah.
Right from day one, Alotejiko's words could have been taken. If that was ignored, his own legal unit could have advised him, and then Magana Yakari. But what are we seeing today? It's going on and on and on. Who will be the next victim? You remember the case of Sankade or the
Sakande.
Sakande.
Yeah.
Why do we allow ourselves to go through these pains?
Right. Let me engage lawyer in the studio. I think he's raised a few issues where really Parliament and some of the happenings really questionable, which if you consider those actions or happenings, we could have considered Gyakye Quayson in that case. I don't know how the courts
issues, if you like, but we cannot.
I mean, that's how the courts will consider it anyway. If you have an issue with this, deal with that one.
That's it.
Don't use that as premise to. Okay, go ahead.
That's it. So they are separate issues, but we cannot say that because one wrong was ignored, if the next wrong is seen, we should also ignore it because the other wrong was ignored. And
point of correction, he's a Canadian.
Canadian. Okay, that's good. So it's a shame. It's a shame that due diligence was not done.
I strongly believe it didn't. It's the party that it starts with first.
Yes, so that's it's all round. If the party did not do it, the Electoral Commission, before giving the green light for you to contest, even though you undertake that oath, that signature side to say that everything you've provided is a true reflection of you, yet they also had a responsibility to check whatever you've given to them before giving you the signal, or before giving you
The green light to go ahead.
to contest. So once they also fail to do that, tells us the administrative lapses that we have. And going forward, you would say that they have to start the process early enough so that all these things can be checked to avoid such problems from happening. But you see, one interesting thing is, if you look at Article 42, the right to vote, and that's where sometimes we have to come again as a country, because we seem to be caught in a lot of conflicting
Laws.
situations. Okay.
So 42 says every citizen of Ghana of 18 years of age or above and of sound mind has the right to vote and is entitled to be registered as a voter for the purpose of the public election and referendum.
Good. So it means that if you are a Ghanaian, okay, you know, dual citizenship means you owe two citizens.
Right.
It does not take away the fact that
You are a Ghanaian.
it does not take away the fact that you are a Ghanaian. So a dual citizen can come, register, and then vote. And we don't see anything wrong with it. But he cannot hold a position that he or she has participated in the election into office of that person. You see, and that is where I find it wrong. Because if you are saying that I'm a dual citizen, okay, dual citizenship does not take my Ghanaian citizenship away.
Does any law in the same constitution override another?
No, in terms of voting. I mean, I've read 42.
I mean, generally.
Yes.
Any law in the constitution, does it override any other law? So if you look at the Article 94, Clause 2,
yeah.
we're considering, and then we're looking at Article 42 as well. Does any of them override the other?
Yes, so that's what they've made exemptions to say that even though you can vote as a dual citizen because you are also a Ghanaian, and a Ghanaian qualifies to vote, sound mind, 18 years, etc., but you cannot hold certain positions.
Okay.
And those positions are not only the member of parliament, the parliamentary positions, but includes being a president, vice, CJ, and other positions that the constitution describes. Okay, my particular concern is with the fact that I can vote for a member I can vote to choose who goes to parliament, but I cannot be in parliament. Okay, so I'm sure this will be one of the pointers that when we go into constitutional review, they will have to look for it. Because if you are saying that I cannot be a member of parliament as a dual citizen,
then I should not be able to vote.
I should not be able to vote. Because dual citizenship does not take away my Ghanaian citizenship.
This case can actually trigger an action for this law. That's if it's very considered in the courts.
Yeah.
That this law can be repealed even without the constitutional review process.
I mean, it depends on what anybody wants to do. Yes, that's the point. Okay, but we seriously. That's why I said that instead of, I mean, the court has ruled, and we have nothing to do about that, and it's the apex court. You can't do anything.
Yeah.
You can somersault a million times. But I'm saying that they would have applied maybe a little more common sense than the strict law, which is the black and white, because there are situational analysis here. One, where I said that he has processed the renunciation of his Canadian citizenship. He did not do it after winning the election. If he did it after winning the election, then you would say that he's been mischievous, because then you say he's standing on both sides. If I win, I renounce it. If I lose, I'll go back to continue my Canadian citizenship. That has not been the case. Okay.
Hold on, let me take a quick breather. I will come back and wrap up on this matter. I will be back shortly. This is Good Afternoon, Ghana. Welcome back to Good Afternoon, Ghana. Well, so we're trying to actually get through to Edem as well, but we've been unsuccessful, probably, I think, with where he is. But let's quickly wrap up on this one. And what's his name? My earlier guest, is he on the line? Is he still on the line? Is Niamate with me? Okay. Okay, great. I'll come back to you as we wrap up. So quickly, land, and then we'll touch on Edem before we.
I still stand by my position that he evinced an intention which shows that he took the step to renounce it. And once he has filed for the renunciation, he could not go back to say that he's not doing it again. Okay? And secondly, he did not do it after winning the election, but he did it when he filed his process, which means that it has moved from him to the decision of the other country. Okay, therefore, he has no hand in that administrative process, but he has said that clearly in writing that he's renouncing his citizenship. My other issue is where, as a dual citizen, you qualify, yet you cannot be the person to be voted for in Article 42, as he said. That also ought to be looked at. But whatever it is, the decision has been made, as we said. We can't do anything about it. But let's look at the consequence. It means that a by-election will be called. And we know, unless anything happens, that if they go to by-election, is more likely to win because he has been the face there. I mean, he's won it.
But this attracts punishment, doesn't it?
So maybe we yet to see the details and see. But I don't think that the ruling will bar him from contesting.
No. I'm saying that as he made reference to Adamu Sakande's situation, you know, I mean, is this something that, apart from the fact that it's
that you'll be banned for a number of years, etc. Maybe I want to see the details, but from previous.
The details of the ruling.
Yeah, the detail of the full ruling, but from previous discussions, it's been said that look, if a by-election is called today, he's finished the full process of the renunciation, so he can go back and contest unless we see the full ruling which says that he's been barred for a certain number of years, which I do not want to think so, but we'll wait to see it and see.
I'm not sure how soon that is, because the by-election, the full ruling is going to come out. I think we're provided with a date.
So probably when it comes, we'll come back to do some analysis of what has been said.
Yeah, I was just trying to get the correct dates that it said the full ruling was going to come out. But
it also goes to the issue of ROPAL, which has dragged on for a very long time. Yeah. You know, and I mean, recently JM has said that he will look into it, which Impienim also affirmed JM's proposal that must be considered. Okay, and it's all bad for us. If you look at how much earnings, how much money, I mean, our brothers and sisters abroad send over to the country, their economic contribution, and to say that they cannot represent us, even in the position of dual citizenship.
I guess you're on the same page with Ni Amate. So we're wrapping up, but we'll do with the Edem Agbana situation as well. Yesterday, the NDC ruled and said, well, the NDC's court ruled and said that Edem emerged, the winner, and so he has been confirmed. What do you make of that? Just about 1 minute, and then we can wrap up.
I thought I was going to look at the problems of Parliament again, but I think we can find a day and talk about Parliament and its negativity.
Right.
Well, NDC conducts an election, and the NDC has come out to say, well, this is the one we have chosen as the winner. I think we just would have to accept it and go forward with it. I don't.
The question I was asking someone from the NDC party yesterday was if that was not a dangerous precedent, because they were talking about serial numbers. They checked the serial numbers and they were consistent with the ballot papers, which it's not that there's been some identified fake serial number or fake ballot paper or anything of that nature. But the law is not talking about serial numbers. The law is talking about the fact that it has to be stamped.
Well, we've been there. at the presidential level and went to court, and all such matters were, ironed out. We have those things serving as precedent to help us.
Right.
And this is what we're talking about, that if at that level it is skewed, we'll take it to the national level, and then we embarrass ourselves. So when certain subcultures occur at that level, constituency level, let us cure the mischief.
Right.
Let us not be tempted to say, oh, this one looks more appealing, or this one looks like somebody who's going to fetch the vote for us, so let's use him. Let us be fair to one another, and then it will go on to be fair or fairer at the national level.
Right. Ni Amate, I'll thank you. I'll end it here with you. Thank you so much for joining us. But let me also finalize it with you.
And yes, I think that the issues of Parliament and the EC and all that must be taken to the next level, if you like, in the next election, where things are done way ahead of time, so that all due diligence must be followed. Because if I process my form, for example, and you give me the green light that I can go ahead, and you come to say that it is my fault and not your fault, I mean, two wrongs, you say doesn't make it right.
So if I'm going
but
to
the
vote,
EC has the upper hand because they give you the clearance, without which you cannot continue to do. So yes, we'll say that the parties should take their time to do their due diligence and make sure that all those who they approve to contest the primaries have what it takes to what qualifies them to become members of parliament. And then the EC, when the candidates have applied, for the election, filled in the application forms to contest, must also do their due diligence to ensure that those that they approve are those who have really qualified. So that this
same on the EC, reference to Adam Agbana, what I was talking about. If I've come for the ballot paper and you have to stamp it and you don't stamp it, I assume that you've done what you have to do, and I go and vote. So if it comes back and you say the ballot paper has not been stamped, is that my fault?
No, it couldn't be your fault.
That also is at the table of the electoral commission.
So all that goes back to education, which tells you that we need to do more education on elections. We have to spend a lot more time in educating the people so that either ways, I mean, both parties ensure that the right thing is being done. Yes.
So that's lawyer Ni Ama-Adi, lead fellow Center for Social Justice. Earlier on, we had on the phone with us Ni Amate, governance expert. We apologize for the inability to bring Adam Agbana with us. My name is Ania Fwampofo. Thank you so much for watching the show. Good afternoon. Entertainment Review is next.